What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty P, Shannon White, Steelers Global Perspective. It is Combine. I call it Combine Weekend, really. It's like a long weekend. You're driving away in the background, Shannon, when the music's playing. How are you doing, my good friend? We are coming off the back of me joining your Pump Your Brakes podcast. I got to say thank you to Tate, Big G, and of course yourself. You had me on. I had a great time. It was awesome. But yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Like you said, we had a great Pump Your Brakes podcast, and I knew we would. And just for Steeler fans, breaking it down, and I wanted to do that to kind of give everybody, get them prepared for this Combine weekend. And so we covered so much. We went over a little bit, but it was worth it. And and then today I'm so excited because it's all getting started.
Well, we've got the defensive round bellies, as you like to call them.
Oh, yeah.
Got the round bellies going, in the draft right now. So in the combine, right? So, well, they will go in the draft. They're hoping. But right now, as we speak, you and I are recording this. It's literally 3 p.m. on Thursday afternoon Eastern time. So what that means is the D linemen are testing. So by the time we finish all our recording by different shows that will come out over the weekend, we'll be able to cover a few of the early results. But in the last couple of hours, they have started putting up the results for the defensive linemen and linebackers in terms of their measurables. So I thought it'd be a fun idea for us to do a segment that I'm going to call Fat or Fit. And we're going to go through height, weight, arm length, and if people really care deeply about the hand size of defensive line, we can talk about them too. We're going to do every single defensive line prospect. I'm going to say that straight out. We're probably going to keep it to top 10 or 12 players, or 10 to 12 noteworthy players. We'll see whether they're the top players based on where they're draft day. But we can't tell you that right now. If we could, we'd be very, very rich because we make a lot of money in the sports betting market. Well, let's kick it off. And Byron Murphy is the first guy on the list that I've been able to pull up. He's tested in at 6 foot flat and a half. So not completely flat, but 6 foot and a half, 297 pounds, an arm length of 32 and 3/8. Fat, fit. Now, I think I should have caveated was that obviously some guys slim down to go to the combine. So do we like the weight? When we say fat, could they also be undersized? I'm open to that one as well. But what do you think about that Byron Murphy, 6 foot and a half, 297 pound, 32 and 3/8 inch arm length?
Well, are we breaking this down on their as I really fat or fit as far as their physique? Are they in physical condition? Or are we saying fit for the Steelers?
Well, I want to know about the condition because I think some of these players are good fits and I think other ones are not. But also, I think size comes into play. For example, I think it's very hard to play on the D line if you are going to have a playing weight at 285 and 6'2", right? I think that's going to, you're going to struggle to play AFC North football. That's why I like Gabe Hall out of Baylor, who we'll also talk about.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to break it down because I think all these guys have been training and they're in shape, as we've talked about before. They're coming in at a little bit lighter weight, so they'll test a little better. Yeah. They can jump a little higher. They might knock a 10th off their 40. So I will say, because if I'm saying fitness level, Murphy's very fit, but he's not a good fit. Yeah. So I'd say he's fat for the Steelers because, as we know, the Steelers prefer at least 6'3".
Yeah.
They like 6'5"-ish. Aaron Smith, Brett Kiesel, down there.
Loudermilk.
Yeah, all these guys, they want Hayward, they want Tuitt. I mean, all of them. The perfect lineman for the Steelers is 6'5" and anywhere from 300 to 315, and he can slide out or slide in that 3-4. If you could do that, you're the perfect fit.
Yeah.
So Murphy, I would say no. But we got to remember something. The height part, to me, isn't as important as the arm length. And I do think the hand size matters as well. But the height, I got a chance to stand near Casey Hampton years ago.
Yep.
People don't realize when I say he was the Pillsbury Doughboy, and I say that affectionately because I love Casey, but Casey, I'm 5'9", and Casey was standing around, and it was you had Ward and you had Harrison and some guys, Troy Polamalu, and we were all similar. I mean, Hampton was barely 6 foot.
Yeah.
Now, he was probably 340 to 350 at the beginning of camp. And then he got around 330 and then Kyrie get off his back a little bit. But so the height, if you're a nose tackle or a nose guard, it can help you with lift and anchoring. But Murphy, that's not his game. He's a quickness guy. He's more like Clancy last year.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's a good fit for the Steelers.
And we got Tyler Davis. Now, I think these measurables are going to hurt Tyler Davis. I feel like athletically he needed to show he was a beast because he's in that 4th, 5th round bucket, maybe even later, depending on his draft process. He measuring at 6'2", 301 pounds, arm length of 31.38 inch, and hand size of, because we articulate hand size importance, 9 1/4 inch. So I was hoping Tyler Davis was going to be high 6'3s, and I thought if he was around 300 pounds at combine weight, probably okay. But I feel like he's measured in undersized here. I didn't love him to the Steelers, but he seemed to be someone that was getting a bit of attention from the Steelers at Senior Bowl. Obviously played at Clemson, so a decent college program. I don't know. How do you feel about Tyler Davis knowing those measurements?
That's disappointing. I hate it for him. Now, if he tests really well today, that might help some people to be able to look past, again, the arm length and the hand size is an issue for me there, but not a good fit for the Steelers. But, the Steelers are really have a good connection with the Clemson program. And so I always – kind of look at that as you never know if they're going to pick somebody out of Clemson because they know the program so well and the coaching staff so well. They get some insights that, we're not privy to.
Which is also interesting because I remember listening to a podcast last year from Daniel Jeremiah on Move the Sticks. I think it was the start of the last draft process. And he talks about the fact that Clemson hadn't had an interior lineman, and I think it was a tackle as well, but definitely interior defensive lineman drafted in the first or second round in something like a decade. And he was saying that how interesting that is in the division that Clemson plays in, because you'd think that they would focus a bit more on interior guys on both sides of the line. So anyway, it is interesting. Now here's a guy that
wasn't Breezy
up until last year. That's what they were saying. Up until last year, it was in that process where they're like they haven't had someone up until now.
And he actually had a better year than I expected.
Yeah, and I think I've said this either on when we've been doing our show, and he's testing off the charts already early on. I feel like Fisk is a better prospect than Breezy coming out. But we'll get to Fisk.
Yeah,
we'll get to Fisk.
Yes.
So this guy is a guy that's I keep wanting to talk about. I ended up leaving him out of my top 60 guys that are on the channel. But if I did my full 75, I would have picked him. Justin, I can never get his last name right. I'm going to go Abogby from Alabama. Now, he tested well. 6'4 and a half, 297 pounds, arm length of 33 3/8 inch, hand size 9 3/4, right? Hogwarts Platform Express. But that is, the height's good, the weight's good. The arm length is better than any of the prospects we've talked so far. There's some good measurements for Justin out of Bama.
Just I know it's early in the process, but what round was you kind of projecting him or thinking he's going to go?
If there's a run, I was going late 3, but I had a fourth.
I had a fourth. Yeah, I was thinking fourth as well, which would be a great
value.
I
think that's getting lucky. I think
to me, he's a guy that is not ready. He's not ready right now, but I believe that he can come in kind of like Kiesel did, and they can work with him. Anybody Dunbar gets his hands on, I feel like he could. I mean, even Loudermilk at times, who I was totally against when they picked him, has showed some being able to be a part of the rotation.
Yeah.
You take a guy like Liao, his problem is they won't decide where they want him to play, and he needs to play at 315, I think, at least 300, and make him what he actually is, a D lineman. But I think if Dunbar could get his hands on this guy, I think he could, be somebody that in a couple years could have starting potential.
Yeah, and this is the sort of guy, we had a lag, so it came across late. But this is the sort of guy, too, that in other drafts with a smaller D-line class, I think would be a third rounder, right? I just have him fourth round because when you rank him, that's where he is.
Yeah.
Then you got one of my draft favorites in that I think he's huge value late and he's going to slip back purely because he's not a 4-3 fit. And that's Gabe Hall out of Baylor. Now, we all know he's tall, 6'6", 291 pound. I'm happy with that weight for me. 34.5-inch arms, hand size 9.5. So he's bigger than Justin. Huge production of Baylor. Like, obviously they haven't had that. The team's not been as good in recent years. What do you like? Do you like those measurements from a guy that's pretty much pegged? You can only play 3-4.
Well, I mean, again, he can easily play. He probably will play at 300 or more once.
Oh yeah, he'll be at 320
once he gets in, and especially gets in the professional weight program. But yeah, everybody's looking for the next Chris Jones. And a guy who is athletic with the length and the reach, and he has all these factors. I'm not saying he's going to be, because that Chris Jones is a special athlete, but I think he would be a really strong fit for the Steelers and what they're wanting to do, because they're going to have to get younger.
Yeah.
As we know, and the only way I can see to really do that right now is through the draft. So I was pleased when you just said those measurements.
Then we've got a guy out of Florida State. Now, here's a guy that you and I both like. Mr. Braden Fisk, right?
Yes.
One of my top prospects at D lineman outside. Basically, my top prospect outside the second round in Trevondre Sweat. Third. So let's call him my third best prospect. 6'4", 292, arm length 31, hand size 9 3/8. He is athletically testing off the chart. I can say right now. We'll have that video out later. But he's already got winning in the broad jump and the vertical jump. But what do you think about those measurements?
Well, I didn't watch much Florida State this year. I watched them upset a few teams, and it's the big games, and so I owed it to you. You're the one that told me to check out Fisk. And Fisk is kind of like, now, stick with me with this one. I compared him to Aaron Smith.
Yeah.
The reason being is that he's more fiery than Aaron Smith.
Yeah.
But he's that just reliable, all-around guy. I mean, he could do, if you put him anywhere on that line, he's going to make plays. He is more explosive and quick twitch than Smith ever thought about being. And I wish his arms were longer and his hand size are not optimal. But here's what I was going to say. You got to stick with me. He's like Nick Herbig in that his motor, his explosiveness, and his closing speed are going to make up for some of the deficiencies on arm length and hand size. I think Fisk is a great fit for Pittsburgh, and I'd love it if they could get him in the third.
I think he's fit too. I was worried he was gonna come in at over 300, so I kind of like that. So yeah, I like. I mean, I like him. I just do.
I think he could play 3 easily and not lose that explosiveness.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think he can play it. Yeah. Throw 310, 312 easy. Michael Hall Jr. Now he is a guy that was that was meant to be 6 foot flat, be like 300 pound playing weight, come in like late 280s, early 290s. He is measured in at 6'3", which is huge for his draft stock. 290 pounds, arm length of 33.5-inch, hand size of 10. I mean, this feels like Benton 2.0 to me in terms of the fact that the Steelers loved him at the Senior Bowl. I'm gonna hate it if the Steelers use the 51st pick on this guy, but I feel like this guy's coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It does sound like because of that comparison to Benton, but I didn't think he was going to be that tall.
Neither did I.
I didn't. I really didn't. And then to have the arm length and the hand size as well, I guess that where they were there standing looking at him and watching him and talking to him, they could tell, so that also Benton had the personality. He was a perfect fit that way too. And it seems like this kid is as well. So he's somebody to definitely keep an eye on. I'm like you though. I already have the first 2 picks kind of lined up with what I'm hoping happens. And it never goes like I think it's going to. So, but one thing about it, if they do, it'll be another quality pick, just like Benton last year.
And I mean, in full franchise building, which is, we both like that. If you go Benton 1 year and you go Michael Hall Jr. the first, and he's probably a better prospect on paper coming out than Benton was in a lot of ways. Like you were trusted on Benton lifting, but if you look on pure paper and the college and what they did, Michael Jr. is probably right up there with Benton, probably ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
You've got very cheap at a very expensive position very, very quickly, right? And it's the classic Andy Weidel. It's very Philadelphia, it's like the Jordan Davis Carter thing, again. Let's get to our next guy, Mason Smith with a AA out of LSU. You and I talked about him before.
I'm interested in this one.
I think you're going to be pretty happy with this one.
Yeah.
6'5".
Yeah.
306 pounds.
Yeah.
So is he fat or is he fit? Arm length of 35.
Yep.
Hands are only 8.5.
8.5?
8.5.
Man, Kenny Pickett's going to make fun of him. Oh, my Lord.
What do you make of this bloke?
Oh, my gosh.
He's got the arm length, right? But
that's got to look funny. That really does look funny. It really does.
I must say, if I could pull up the photo right now. The photo has him making a fist, and his hand does look disproportionately small to his bicep.
It'd have to, yeah. That's a big guy. No, I was right.
I would say my dad is 6'5".
Yeah,
and like whatever the weight, right? And he doesn't have very big hands at all. I'm just under 6'2". I have bigger feet than my dad, right? And I have bigger hands than my dad. I've got my mum's taller fingers, but I got my dad's big palms. Right?
Yeah.
So I think the hands too. Like people used to say to me, you don't have necessarily the biggest hands for your height, but having a big palm help. Like especially like played a lot of basketball, right? So you can get into physicals too much, but yeah, it is odd that he's got that size hand at that height and weight.
Yeah, I was. I got to watch him some this year. And, he didn't have as good a year as he had the year prior.
Mm.
And I kind of questioned his motor a little bit because he's a really good fit with everything else. But I'm a motor guy. I'm more like what Tomlin says. I'd rather say whoa and have to say sick 'em.
Yeah.
That's my thing is if I don't like his motor in college, it usually don't get any better when they're making money.
No, it's worse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, that would really shock me when you told me his hand size.
I did. I
I
did create a bit of hype there, though.
Oh yeah, I trust Dunbar and what he can do, but I'm gonna say fat on this one.
You don't trust him that much.
Yeah, I'm like I'm gonna have to say fat on this one because when you consider that I already questioned his motor. Now Fisk, he's got the motor.
Yeah.
But Smith, I don't. I'm and now with that hands, I'm gonna have to say fat on this one.
He might go undrafted for that. Next bloke, Chris Jenkins, 6'3". That's good height for him. I was worried that he'd go under that, but I thought he was about 6'3".
I thought he was at least 6'3". I did.
299 pounds, arm length 34, hand size 9 3/8.
Yeah.
Projected to run a very quick 40. I like that, man. I think that.
I think that's. Yeah, we know that Andrew and Big G and a lot of these guys are really high on him, and I thought he, in all honesty, he was overlooked in college because they were such a dominant D at times.
Yeah,
and he was a big part in that he sacrificed, I believe, a lot of his statistics that shows up on the paper for his teammates because he was a force in the middle. So I do like him, and he does fit the Steelers' measurables.
So yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy that. My only thing is that I feel like he's going to be wasted at like nose tackle. So then you're drafting a D-line guy, and I don't know whether I want the Steelers spending that early on him. So that's the only thing I'm a bit like. Ugh. We're going to finish up with two guys. One guy is getting a lot of attention toward the Steelers later on. He's out of Western Michigan, and he played next to Fisk before Fisk transferred. That's Marshawn Nealon, 6'3", 267 pounds. So remember, this guy's more of like for listeners out there, this guy's more of a defensive end, not a defensive tackle. But 6'3", 267 pounds. He's lowered it so that he can fit the ranges for a 4.3 DE. 267, 34.5-inch arms, hand size 9 1/8.
Yeah, I'm like you. I think that's a 4.3 guy. And so I'm going to say fat in that he's not a good fit for the Steelers.
It's just like, I love the tone. Yeah, it's like, bye-bye. So I'm just trying to bring up the Trevondre Sweat. Now, I know, because I want to get his arm length, but I know that he weighed in at 366 pounds, Shannon, 366 pounds, which was his playing weight. So that's good for him. So he measured 366 pounds and 6'5", but I am trying to get you his arm length. So let's see if we can get that one. But while I go grab that, what do you think about that? 366 and over 6'5".
Well, back when Jordan Davis was drafted by the Eagles, there was a lot of talk if he got to the Steelers, would the Steelers take him or would they consider him? And I'm just like, these are guys that any statistics are great, but when you're that size and you could, even at the NFL level, demand double teams and just create havoc in the interior, you disrupt game plans. It ain't always the plays you're making, it's how you disrupt game plans. And
it's a very good
they
point.
just give Myles Garrett the Defensive Player of the Year because he disrupts game plans. And so Sweat, I consider the same. I don't think that I think he'd be an excellent fit for the Steelers, or for any team in the NFL for that matter, because of what he can do in the interior. And I believe he can do this, as we saw in the playoffs, even what he could do. He just creates havoc in there, and you have to account for him. Now, his conditioning, I don't think he could be a 3-down guy. At his size, I think he wears down. I don't know if he could lose a little and maybe help with that. I don't know, but you seen him get tired in a few games. If they needed him to play more snaps, that is a concern. But he has such value. I think he'll be in the first round. I think somebody towards the end of
so I've
first
seen
round,
exactly Daniel Jeremiah said the same thing coming out of the Senior Bowl. Is like someone's going to pick Sweat in the first round.
I just think that it's so hard to find these guys. I mean, you don't find people that size.
Think about his mama. It's so hard to produce these guys.
And imagine if he does run like he thinks he's going to run, which Davis did, Jordan Davis. So, I just think that I don't like the first round value when the Steelers have so many needs. And we've already talked about some of these other guys that I think would be even better fits for the Steelers in a later round. Because a lot of these guys we're talking about, it would have to be the 51st pick. But if the Steelers can trade back, like we've talked about, in a year they need to, and pick up additional draft capital, then I would feel better about it. But where he's going to be drafted and everything, I just don't see the Steelers going in the first round.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard. I worry about Fisk now because he's testing off the chart. I'm Matty P with Shannon White. As always, go Steelers.